can't afford it is not a real concept.
Yeah.
You know what I can't afford it is? It's a construct. Let me ask you a question.
Would you ever invest in $1 million mentor? That is exactly what we did. And I am honored and thrilled and excited to introduce you to him today. He has gone from the trash man to the cash man. He has sold millions and millions of dollars within just hours at a time. He will completely rearrange your brain when it comes to premium value offers, business, and the Bible, and making more offers. I'm so excited to introduce to you Mr. Myron Golden. Hey, Coach.
Macy, so good to see you, sister. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I'm so excited to share you with my audience today.
And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. So most of them know you. I talk about you, Coach.
That's so cool. Thank you for that.
And they see
Hopefully you only talk about the good stuff, not the other stuff.
There is only good stuff.
See, I like what you did there.
100%.
Okay.
And they see the fruits. They see the YouTube channel that is just
channel's doing pretty good.
blowing up that people cannot get enough of. They see the private jet. They see the phenomenal family that you have. They see the people that are in your programs, just the caliber of people. But what they do not see is the roots that are developing the fruits. And I know that you will tell like bits and pieces of your story here and there in YouTube, but nothing to which I think that people would like really get so much value of hearing a little bit more of your roots. I wanted you to share that.
I think the thing that's really hard for people to wrap their minds around, especially when they're in a situation that feels hard, and most people feel like when they're in a situation that feels hard, that situation is bad, right? But one of the things we have to remember is everything that feels good is not good, and everything that feels bad ain't bad.
That's right.
And so people believe that like, well, this is where I am, so this is where I'm going to be. And they'll look at somebody who's achieving some of the things that I'm achieving right now, and they won't realize that all of the stuff that I have right now, or that I'm able to do right now, is on the other side of some stuff I wasn't able to do when I first got started, right? And so when you talk about the root and the fruit, it reminds me of the concept of a tree which grows in two directions at the same time. And it grows up, that's the fruit system, but it grows down, that's the root system. And not only do they both grow in the same direction, it has to grow down before it can grow up. The seed has to be planted in the ground where it cannot be seen. Maybe people are walking across the ground, don't even know it's existing. And some people right now who are watching this interview, you feel like you're being walked on by life and nobody even knows you exist. But the reality is, like, the ground is the preparation place, right? It's the place that is fertile enough for you to become the tree. And the part of the tree that's below the ground is what we call in nature, it's the gravitropic nature of the tree, which means it grows towards gravity and away from light. The part that's the fruit system that grows above the ground, that grows towards light and away from gravity. Well, it's the gravitropic nature of the tree that makes the phototropic nature of the tree possible. What people see when they watch my YouTube channel is they see the phototropic nature, the part that reaches towards the light, where everybody can see what's going on, everybody can see how productive you are, and everybody can see how peaceful you are, and everybody can see how profitable you are, but they didn't see the stuff that was going on in the ground for weeks, months, years, decades prior. A lot of times people think, well, Myron was an overnight success. He just came out of nowhere. I say, yes, I was an overnight success, but it was a 14-year night. I was an entrepreneur for 14 years before I had my first six-figure year. But today, because it's so easy to make money. It's easier to create wealth now than it's ever been in human history. Somebody feels like, if I'm not a millionaire by next Thursday, it's just not worth my time. But what they don't realize is that all work works. And the work that you're working on is also working on you. And when you're working on something that feels like it's not working, it's because it feels like it's not working for you. But here's the question I have for all the people watching right now. Are you willing to let the work on you long enough for you to become the person for whom it can work? That's the question.
And I know like one of those things specifically that just burns my mind is picturing, I know that you said that you started network marketing. We didn't start in network marketing, but that was a piece of it.
It was a financial services company that was built on a network marketing model.
Right. And you would go to people's houses.
I would go to people's houses. I'd knock on doors. I'd go to strangers' houses, friends' houses, relatives' houses. I presented, I did
my gosh.
presentation after presentation after presentation after presentation. And for 18 months, I got started October of 1985.
Wow.
I passed my test, I think, in January of 86. I did my insurance test.
Yeah.
I didn't make my first sale until April of 87. So I was in the business for 18 months before I got my first commission check.
And you're doing presentations every day.
Almost every day, yeah.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
And like that is a route.
But I was terrible.
Right.
But
that's how you became great though.
Exactly.
Right?
I was willing to be terrible and keep doing the activity long enough to get great. People want to just wake up great. They want to put themselves in the microwave and come out great. They want to go through the drive-through, enter terrible, and come out great. Like, greatness doesn't happen in an instant. It happens over time. Greatness is not an event. It is a process. If you're unwilling to go through the process, you will not experience the event.
And that, I just think about so many of our people in our audience. It's like 1, 2, 3 no's feels like it's time to try something new. It feels like I'm not cut out for this. This isn't for me.
Right.
And I really just want you to speak to that person who is like, it feels like when you're getting told no and it's not working, it feels like eternity.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because they have too many options. Like, I had no options. So think about this. I had polio as an infant, so I walked with a brace on my leg, so I could not walk long distances or carry heavy things. I'm athletic, but I'm not going to play professional football. I'm not going to play professional basketball. Before my beard, people might think I looked a little like Denzel, but Hollywood wasn't breaking down my door. They weren't breaking down my door asking me to star in the next blockbuster film. So literally, the only arena I had ever seen somebody make $10,000 a month in the mid-'80s was in this particular business. I didn't know professional athletes made $10,000 a month. Like, the words $10,000 and a month never existed in the same sentence before I got into this opportunity. And one of the things, fortunately for me, that my parents taught me when I was growing up, if somebody else can do it, you can do it. If somebody else can do it, it's doable. If it's doable, you can do it. You may not be able to do it the first day, but there will come a day when you'll be able to do it. So I didn't have someplace I could go. So many people have 17 back doors to every one front door. And so they've got so many escape routes that if something doesn't work out in the first 15 minutes, they're off to the next thing. And so, unfortunately, 2 negative, very, very negative impacts happen as a result of not lasting through the learning curve. Would you like me to share what they are?
Please.
1, you never are in the game long enough to overcome the inertia of the game. What's the inertia of the game? Inertia is the principle that an object at rest will remain at rest until and unless it's acted upon by an outside force. Well, if you run into a wall enough times, the wall is going to stop you. Like, the first time it's going to stop you, second time. But if you do it enough times, eventually you'll break through the wall. And so if you attempt to push a situation, that situation is going to resist. Why? Because it desires to maintain homeostasis. It wants to stay the same. But if you keep pushing, eventually something's got to give.
Wow.
And eventually you'll become strong enough that you will no longer be the one that gives. Okay, so they never last long enough to overcome inertia. Fortunately for me, I lasted through the learning curve. In other words, I kept doing presentations when people were saying no. No, bro. So, bro, it's no. It's a 2-letter word. What part are you having a hard time with, the N or the O? It's no. But I kept doing it anyway. Why? Because to me, no was just like, it's kind of like, not yet. Not this person. Not yet. Not now. But not, it doesn't mean a forever no, right? And so that's 1, you don't get to overcome inertia. But the second part, which is the opposite side of that coin, but it's worse, you never get to create momentum. when you don't have momentum, everything feels hard because it is hard to overcome inertia. But when you have momentum, the only thing that's hard when you have momentum is stopping.
It reminds me of going up a hill, hiking, and you think relief comes when you sit down, when really relief is just at the top. And it's so much harder to get up when you sit down. It's so much harder.
Yes.
So your relief from that pain came from the 18 months of pushing through and getting that first
And
yes.
becoming the person who is strong enough to make it to the summit. Watch what happens when I made it to the summit. If I relax a little bit, I can recover.
Yeah.
Right? So I have resolve that helps me go up the hill. I sit down, I relax, and I recover.
Yeah.
And then guess what happens? I get to come down, and I get the results. And coming down the hill is only about 10 times easier than going up was. One, because now I have momentum. Two, I'm a stronger person. So a stronger person with momentum can go further, faster, and use less energy than a weaker person without momentum.
And your strength came from developing like a skill set, honestly, through that process. Would you agree with
Mindset
that?
and skill set.
Yeah.
So you have to have the mindset to not quit.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me one time, so after 18 months, by the way, so it took me 18 months to make my first sale, right? But then, after I made my first sale, within a couple months, I was the top salesperson in our office almost every month for the rest of the time I was with that company.
Wow.
And people say, well, what happened? What shifted? How did you go from not being able to make a sale to being the top salesperson? Oh, that's easy. I ran out of all the ways that would not work to make a sale.
That's right.
All I had left was ways that were. And when I find something that works, I never get bored with it. I only get paid with it. So many entrepreneurs have what I call entrepreneurial ADD.
Yeah.
They find something that works and say, oh, that was cool. I think I'll go do something else. Not me. I put that puppy on rinse and repeat, and we just keep on going down the hill.
So wait, when you made your first sale,
My first commission.
what was that like for you in that
was like-
moment? And were you doing a trash man during the day at that point?
Yeah, I was a trash man during the day.
Wow.
I drove a garbage truck during the day, and I went out and did presentations at night.
Wow.
I made $6.25 an hour during the day. But that night I made a sale, and my commission was $125.66. And when that check came,
Yeah.
I showed it to my wife. I said, babe, we're going to be rich.
Wow.
So, which is such a weird thing to say. Like $125, that wasn't, I mean, I made more than twice that for my job.
Yeah.
But I just knew, oh, I got it to work once. Oh, I'm about to figure this thing out. It's on now.
And you accepted it, like, okay, I'm picturing you, someone who's being told no all the time. You get told yes, you accept the payment. Have you ever struggled for asking for money? Was that ever a resistance that you had?
Potentially, not that I can remember.
I can't imagine you ever struggling with that, but I'm just curious if you ever started there.
I didn't struggle internally with, I didn't struggle with the mindset of asking for the money.
Yeah.
I definitely struggled with the skill set.
Okay.
So the mindset is how I feel about doing it. The skill set is the physiology and the syntax and the belief systems with which I do it. So when I'm selling now, I happen to really, really believe, which is going to sound odd to somebody who's not a sales girl, right? But when I'm selling now, I really, really believe that they're more excited about paying me than I am about getting paid. Because they desire my outcome, whatever the payoff is for my offer, more than I desire their money, because I could care less. And I'm not pretending to care less whether or not they buy. It's my awareness of SWN that makes me not care if they buy or not.
Wow.
So what's SW? Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting next. Because I know someone will buy, I don't care who it is. So many people are so married to the hope that this person says yes so I can earn a commission. When I'm selling, the last thing in the world I'm thinking about is how much money I'm going to make. It's so counterintuitive, Macy.
Yeah, it is.
It's counterintuitive when you're selling to not think about how much money you're going to make.
Yeah.
I think about how much money I'm going to make when I'm creating the offer.
Yeah.
Because I already know the law of averages says out of so many people that see this, some are going to buy it.
Yeah.
And then if I apply the law of large numbers to the law of averages, then I can take my average and turn it into a big number. And if let's say there's a sales contest, right?
Right.
We're having a sales contest, and the person who makes the most sales wins a prize. Let's say I'm the worst salesperson in the office, and I only make one sale out of every 10 presentations. But the best person makes 4 sales out of every 10. And we're having a 30-day sales contest. I can win. Because if I make 1 sale out of every 10, and they make 4 sales out of every 10, and they only talk to 10 people, make 4 sales. But I talk to 100 people and make 10 sales. I can apply the law of large numbers to the law of averages, and even though my average is lower, I can win against somebody with a better skill set because I was willing to use the law of large numbers applied to the law of averages.
Wow.
So it's all math, and as you said, the math
It's going math.
is going math.
Yeah.
It always maths.
So it's interesting because women, we create world-class sales girls, as you know, and we teach them how to persuade for good.
Sure.
And so
I love that phrase, though. It's like persuade for good is like a good country song.
Oh, yeah.
It has multiple meanings, right? Teach them how to persuade for good, which means they're persuading for the good of mankind, but they're also persuading people who are persuaded for good. They're persuaded.
They're
from now
all
on.
in.
They're all in.
They're all in.
That's such a great phrase.
Thank you. And we talked about how persuasion means means through to completion, and swayed means to advise. And so there's this
so good.
There's this tension of like I don't care, like I love you, I want you to buy, I know that you will win when you do. But with women, like through to completion and advise, we love to advise. Advising gives that like nurturing spirit.
I love to advise, and I'm not even a woman.
It's like I want to help you, let me advise you. But there's a difference between advising someone and advising someone to make a decision that will give them the payoff.
Right.
So I want you to talk to the person who's like, okay, like I get that the law of averages, someone will, it'll come, someone's going to buy. And also, like there needs to be a level of directness.
Oh, 100%.
With the selling and carrying both of those two.
But the reason people don't have a level of directness is because they desire the person to buy. They're so attached to the outcome. They're afraid to be direct and honest because they're afraid that their directness and their honesty might cause somebody to say no. But somebody who's skilled at sales, they don't care. Like, tell me yes or tell me no, but tell me now, I gotta go. A yes is a beautiful thing. A no is a beautiful thing. The thing that's ugly, the only ugly outcome in sales is what I call a forever maybe. And a forever maybe looks like, let me think about it. I gotta sleep on it. I gotta talk it over with my wife, with my husband, with the dog catcher, with the milkman, with the mailman, with my next door neighbor who's just as broke as I am, right? That's a forever maybe.
Yeah.
Forever maybes are not acceptable. No's, I'll embrace a no like I'll embrace a yes.
Yeah.
Because if they tell me no, at least I know.
Right.
And I can get to the yeses faster. But forever maybe, now I'm waiting around for the maybe to turn into a yes.
Yeah.
Maybes don't turn into yeses. They were already no's. They just didn't have enough intestinal fortitude to tell you no in the first place.
And also, when you have this low level of attachment, like that stems from you really believing in your ability to like get the
Create the
result one way or the other. How do you feel like you developed that belief? There's no way you were born with that belief.
Definitely wasn't born with that belief.
Yeah.
I think I discovered it, believe it or not, when I was in multi-level marketing. This was definitely February of 1997. Okay, first of all, I got started in a multi-level marketing company in September of 1995.
It's wild.
My upline, 2 levels up, was making $60,000 a month in 1995.
That's insane.
That was some serious, like crazy money, right? The guy between me and him was making about $18,000 a month.
Yeah.
I was broke as a joke and ready to choke. So I joined, and in fact, it was September 5th, 1995. Don't ask me why I remember it. No, September 10th. September 10th, 1995. So this other couple joined the same day I did, George and Judy. We were at the same opportunity meeting. I joined, George and Judy joined. Within a year's time, they were having me do the presentations because I closed more than everybody when I did the presentations. But I wasn't able to recruit people to my team. My team was growing, but it was kind of lopsided. So a year later, I was making maybe $800 to $1,000 a month. George and Judy, they were making $10,000 a month within a year. I wasn't at $10,000 a month. And so what happened was George and Judy were recruited by the guy who made $60,000 a
$60,000.
month. But when he came back from the company convention, he bought 100 tickets for the next convention.
Oh, wow.
He sold 10 tickets to each of his leaders and made them buy those tickets from him and then sell them to their leaders.
Oh, wow.
So he sold George and Judy 10 tickets to the upcoming convention that was happening in 6 months.
Okay.
The guy that recruited me knew I was broke. So he just asked me if I was going. He didn't make me buy anything. He didn't tell me to buy the tickets. He didn't coach me to buy the tickets. He said, "Hey, Myron, are you going to the convention in July?" "No, I don't need to be motivated. I'm already motivated."
You said that?
That's what I said.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, okay. So I didn't get the transformation in July that they got, but they didn't just go to the convention in July. They went to the convention with 9 other people from their team. I didn't go at all, and nobody from my team went. So over that 6 months, so after that 6 months, within the next 6 months, they were at $10,000 a month. I was still struggling to make 1,000. And so the upcoming leadership school was coming up in February. And when that leadership school came up, the tickets were like $175. Like I didn't have enough money to get to, I lived in Pennsylvania, didn't have enough money to get to Fort Lauderdale, to buy a plane ticket to Fort Lauderdale and back. Didn't have enough money for the hotel, didn't have enough money for the ticket. Didn't have a vehicle that would drive me to Fort Lauderdale. But I went to my wife and I said, "Babe, if I don't go to this conference, I don't think we're going to be in this company a year from now. I've got to go to this conference. I'm going to get as many people as I can to go with me." And so, without going into all the detail, it was a binary multi-level marketing, which means you had to build 2 teams, not just one.
Oh, wow.
Because one team wouldn't make you any money, but 2 teams, one on the left, one on the right.
Oh, I see.
So I had 5 people there from my right side.
I see.
Nobody there from my left side but me. But while I was at that event, my life changed forever.
Why?
Because I borrowed my dad's van. I drove to Fort Lauderdale. I didn't have enough money to get back home. I didn't have enough money to get a ticket to get into the conference.
Wow.
But I drove to Fort Lauderdale. I slept in my dad's van. I washed my face in the bathroom. And one of the people in my team happened to be a wealthy guy. He bought me a ticket to get into the conference. And up till that time, all of the people, I had a whole bunch of people on my left team, and I would drive for 4 hours to do an opportunity meeting for them, and they wouldn't invite anybody, and some of them didn't even show up.
Wow.
So the more I attempted to make it easy for the people because they needed it, the less work they did. And so I'm at that conference, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't have anybody on my team as broke as me. Like these people that I'm driving 4 hours for, all of them have more of a capability to be at this event than I do, but I'm here. They're not here. And I realized in that moment, oh, this is my problem. I'm attempting to make it easy for people. And I'm promising them that I'll do the work for them. This ends now. And in that moment, while I was sitting there evaluating what was going on in my life, while I'm in Fort Lauderdale without enough money to get back home to my wife and kids, I realized that if you attempt to help people and you want it for them more than they want it for themselves, all you're going to do is frustrate yourself and irritate them. And I came to the realization that day, I said, okay, Jesus is the only Savior. The reason I'm struggling right now is because I'm trying to save people who don't have it in them to do the work. So I went back home. So how did I get back home? I didn't have enough money to get home. Sorry, I got to tell you that part of the story.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine called a friend of his who was the pastor of a church across the other side of Florida in Lehigh Acres. He called this friend and asked him if I could speak for him at his church Sunday morning. I spoke at his church. He took up an offering for me. He called one of his friends who had a Sunday night service. That pastor had me come speak that night. They took up an offering for me. So they took up enough of an offering for me to have enough money to drive back home.
Wow.
When I had no idea how I was getting back home.
Wow.
That's a level of commitment that most people don't have. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I was committed. This is going to work. Here's what I discovered as an aside. When I make up my mind to do something, circumstances align themselves in my favor.
Yeah.
When I say I can't, my mind stops searching for an answer.
Wow.
When I say how can I, my mind keeps searching until it finds a way.
Wow.
So guess what happened? My mind kept searching, and I found a way. Right? And so I came back. I called my people that lived in West Virginia. I called everybody on my team in West Virginia, and I had probably 12, 15 people, but they never showed up for anything. I said, I am coming to West Virginia on this day. And I talked to my friend Darren. He was the leader there. Darren, I'm going to have a meeting at your house. You tell everybody, I'm going to call everybody, you let everybody know. If you are not at this meeting, do not call me and ask me to do a three-way call with you. Do not call me and ask me to do anything. I am done working for y'all, and y'all do nothing. And I said, so everybody has to be at this meeting. So everybody's at the meeting. Here's the deal. I learned something really remarkable. I can't fix your life. And if you're not willing to fix your life, it ain't going to get fixed. So here's the deal. Y'all have 30 days. You buy a ticket for the upcoming convention. And if you don't buy a ticket, because at that event, they would take ownership of their own business instead of thinking, I'm responsible for building their business for them.
Right.
If you don't buy a ticket by in the next 30 days to this conference, I am not coming back to West Virginia and doing a meeting. Do not call me to do a three-way call with you. Don't ask me to help you close somebody. If you are unwilling to become the person who's able to build your business, I'm not going to become that person for you.
You can't.
You can't. Man, I went back to that next convention. I had like 30 people from my team there.
Wow.
My business exploded. But why? Because I realized making it easy for people. I had to paint a picture so clear that if they weren't all in, they were willing to say no, and I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Most people are not willing to be that clear because they're hoping people will stay with them. They're hoping people say yes. They're hoping people buy in. And I realized it's sitting in that conference where I was sleeping in my van, I realized I have to disconnect myself from other people's outcomes.
Wow.
If I don't, they will never learn to fly.
There are like so many things I could mention and ask you more about, but there's one specific thing that I keep thinking about. Is the person that assumed you were too broke to buy the ticket
Yes.
and didn't encourage you to find a way?
If he would have just told me to do it instead of asking me if I was going to, I would have done it. I was so coachable, there was nothing he would tell me to do that I wouldn't do.
Wow.
If he would have said, Myron, you have to be at this conference, and you need to make sure 10 people are there with you. Okay, I would have done it.
So let me ask you this, because there are people that I talk to all the time that are like, I know they don't have any money. So I feel bad taking their money and asking them to pay their pay.
Okay. But you're not taking their money. Do you have a gun? Are you pointing a gun at them when you're?
That's what they think that they're doing sometimes. Okay. So I want you to talk about because even if you borrowed money, hypothetically, you borrowed money to buy a ticket, that would have paid off tenfold.
1,000-fold.
Right. And there's a disconnect.
I wouldn't even be here having this conversation with you right now had I not gone to that event that I could not afford. So here's what I learned though.
Yeah.
I can't afford it is not a real concept.
Yeah.
You know what I can't afford it is? It's a construct. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
And y'all can answer this for yourselves. Have you ever bought anything that you didn't have the money for?
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
You're hilarious. You're hilarious. So here's my question. What did you do? I figured it out.
I tell you what, I said I'm going to sell.
Right.
All the way through.
Right.
Yeah.
But even if you couldn't sell, you figured it out.
Oh,
you bought
100%.
a pair of shoes. You bought a car. You bought things that you didn't have the money for at the time you decided to buy them.
100%.
What did you do? You figured them out. You figured it out.
Oh, yeah.
So what does I can't afford it really mean? Here's what it really means. This is not important enough to me to figure it out.
Right.
If it's not important enough for them to figure out how to pay for it, it's not important enough for me
100%.
to care.
100%. And I think I notice even just in our mastermind, like yours, is the people that invest, it really is like a game to them.
Oh, it's a total game.
It's a game of not am I going to make this back, but how much more can I make back based on what I invest? And I will tell you, that's been one of the biggest things I've noticed of just being around really successful people is that's how they think about investing in
100%.
themselves. And it's almost like you have to take on that persona in order for other people to see that about you as well. Would you agree with that?
It is a rite of passage.
Yeah.
You don't get what you want, you get what you are. Become the person who invests in themselves, you will attract people who invest in themselves. Remain the person who resists buying, and you will attract resisting buyers. Period.
Wow.
There's no alternative. There's no other route. There's no detour.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Wow. Okay, so you did network marketing. Where, I don't even know how you got.
Transition?
Yeah, what?
So I built a bunch of different teams in a bunch of different companies and had the company owners change the compensation plan, change the product, change something about it, and my organization went away. It happened to me so many times that I was like, I am not doing this anymore. I'm done. I'm done building businesses that other chuckleheads can ruin. I said, if I'm building something from now on, I'm gonna build something. If some chucklehead messes it up, I'm gonna be the chucklehead.
That's right.
Okay. So I said, I'm not doing network marketing anymore. Owners are too fickle. I'm just not doing it. Network marketing is a very viable business. I would not be here had I not gone through that training ground. However, I'm not doing it anymore. But there are a lot of people who desire to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach them how to do the thing that I know how to do. And I know how to build teams in network marketing. So I'm going to build a company that teaches people how to build a network marketing organization. Cool.
Wow. What is really wild to me is the moment that your team started to take off is the moment that you had basically a sales message for them.
100%. Wow, I never thought of it like that.
The moment that you changed how you spoke to them
and
helped them see the payoff
and
is when it changed.
Stopped believing in their limitation more than I believed in their leverage. The reason I was attempting to do it for them because I didn't believe they could do it. So I attempted to do it for them.
Wow.
But as soon as I believed, like, you're either going to be able to do it or you're going to get left. This train is leaving the station with or without you on it.
Yeah.
When I took on that, let them take ownership of their own business instead of me taking ownership of their results, the game changed for me forever.
Wow. And, you know, we've worked with tons of network marketing. I started network marketing. It's an awesome place to start because all you have to do is sell.
Right.
And so you build the
You don't
muscle
have to fulfill,
of the most
you don't
important.
have to do operations. Yeah.
It is like game changing to get those reps in. And so people say, how do I recruit? How do I build my team? How do I get them to sell? And in my eyes, it comes back to your sales message to them all day, every day. And you agree with that?
1,000%.
My favorite thing about your book, Boss Moves.
Okay, I was about to say which book? Okay,
Boss Moves is the building that you show and says there's there's so many levels. You say sales is not the most important thing, but it's the first most important thing.
Yes.
And if you think about going into a building, in order to get to the top floor, you always have to go on the bottom floor to go up.
You don't enter the building on the third floor or the second floor.
Right. Sales is the bottom floor. Right. And so it's like network marketing, which this is not about network marketing. It's the principle is you build the reps of selling the product, selling your team, selling a person, and that is every step in any organization.
Yes.
You sell your team every day. You sell your mastermind students. You sell your VIP students to do the work and to believe in us. And it all stems from that original skill set of going into that bottom floor of sales mastery. Would you agree with that?
If you don't master sales, you do not have a business.
Yeah.
You have a wish.
Yeah. What do you think about the difference between someone who makes sales but has this skill set of sales?
Well, anybody can make sales because of the law of averages.
Right.
So there was an insurance company. I learned this when I was in the insurance business. There was an insurance
I know about
company.
the insurance business too.
I bet you do. I bet you do. There was an insurance company that did a test, and they had their salespeople go knock on doors. The sales presentation went like this. Somebody came to the door, they would say, "You don't want to buy any insurance, do you?" Now that's a pretty terrible sales presentation.
Yeah.
They don't get a lot worse than that.
Right.
But guess what they found out?
What?
Out of every 65 people that they talked to, one person said, "Yes, I've been hoping somebody like you would come by."
Wow.
So the average was 1 out of 65 people.
Yeah.
Now, what would happen if your sales message got better? What would happen if your targeting got better? What would happen if the people that you found were people who were looking for you? Those numbers would go up drastically.
Yeah.
But a sales message, as terrible as, you wouldn't want to buy any insurance, would you? Or you don't want to buy any insurance, do you?
That's wild.
1 out of every 65 people said yes.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of an enrolling question, isn't it?
It is like, it's the most unenrolling question maybe ever.
Wow, that is wild. I want to talk about the relationship of being like a salesperson and a coach
Okay.
at the same time. And the importance of really, first of all, having a coach in general. You know, you're like my first real coach that I've invested in. Did you know that?
No.
And my first mastermind?
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, first one.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fortunately for you, though, you had your dad, and he was like,
Oh, yeah.
and he invested in you.
That was huge. I learned
that was
everything
a
I know
level.
from him. And then it was just a new level of like, can I tell you why I didn't want to coach for so long?
Say it again?
Why
Yes.
I didn't want to
Do.
coach. I thought you were going to tell me, or just coaches in general were going to tell me what more to do. Here's what else to do. Here's what else to do. Here's what else to do. And I could not do anything more. And what
You were maxed out.
Maxed
with
out.
Your current level of
maxed out.
play.
And what I couldn't believe is how much less you told me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna subtract to add. We're gonna divide to multiply.
100%.
We're gonna do less to do more.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And, as someone who, I always thought of myself as a sales trainer. And now working with you, I'm like, no, I'm a sales coach. I teach sales skills, but then coach as they implement the sales skills. And every coach has to have a coach.
They don't have to, but a coach that doesn't have a coach doesn't deserve to be your coach.
Yeah. So what would you tell the person who, and I noticed that is an element, like just talking to the sales girls, that they are coaches, but they don't even sell the value of having a coach. They sell like their program, but not the value of having a coach.
Right, because they believe that the offer is the pieces.
Yes.
Or they believe the offer is the process. Or they believe the offer is their person,
The
how many hours
method.
of my time you get.
Yeah.
They don't understand that the offer is the payoff. The only thing the offer is the payoff.
Yeah.
If the offer is not the payoff, you don't have an offer. You just have stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Something about the word payoff, it does not click in people's minds.
Really?
Yeah. And even, it's like the word value. It's talked about all the time. The word payoff is talked about all the time. And
By whom?
give value.
I know it's talked
give
about.
value, build value,
Yeah, value,
share value.
right. But the payoff is what they get. So when I think of it like this, the product is what I have.
Yes.
I'm selling, so I have the product.
Yes.
So I'm vested in the product because it's mine, and so I
Yes.
want to tell you about the product. And my desire is for you to value the product as much as I do,
Right.
but that's never going to happen.
No.
My process is my proprietary process that I've
Right.
developed over years, decades of my time. And I can really, right? And I got this whole story around it.
Right.
But you get so many hours of my time.
Right.
All that stuff feels like because it's valuable to me, it should be valuable to you, but
Right.
it's just not.
No.
The payoff is what you get.
Right.
Like all that other stuff, the process, the product, the pieces, my time, my person, those are all features.
Yeah.
The benefit is what you get.
Right.
And what you get is the payoff. I tell people this. If you can't say, here's what you get, and they say, oh man, I did really desire that, it's not a payoff. It's just a feature. It's not a benefit. It's just a feature.
Right.
If you say, here's what I have this. No, nobody cares. It has this. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right? But when you say, you get this, and you get this, and you get this, and you get this, and you get 3 of these, and you get 4 of those, and you get 5 of these, and you get 6 of these. Oh, by the way, you get this, 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 and this. I get all that. People can get excited about what they get. That's
Right.
the payoff. They
Right.
can't get excited about what you have.
Right. And one thing I think you do a really good job of is being so specific with payoffs. Do you notice that about yourself?
I am hyper specific with everything, almost to the point of being annoying. Yes.
Talk more about that.
Because I really believe that nothing becomes dynamic until it becomes clear. So a person cannot really act on what you're saying until they understand what you're saying. Most people, I got this phrase from my daughter, which she's brilliant. This is one of the most brilliant phrases I've ever heard. The biggest mistake in communication is thinking that it happened. I think one of the reasons most people who are communicating make that mistake is because they assume the opposite of what would be ideal for them to assume, and they assume other people understand what they mean when they're communicating, and so they don't clarify. I assume people don't understand what I mean, so I clarify everything. Like I define all the words, even if I think they know the words already, and I go into specific detail about every word. I'm intentional and particular, almost to the point of being annoying. Somebody says to me, oh, don't worry, I'll do this. I can't not say, I never worry. Right? I can't allow you to project. Somebody said something to me the other day. I was at the golf course. And people laugh, like they literally laugh out loud at me because my responses are what they are. And some guy made some comment about something I said he said something about, don't worry, it'll get worse, something about my golf game. I said, oh, no, it ain't going to get worse. It's going to get better. I'm not coming down to where it is. It has to come up to where I am. Like, okay, well, good for you. Yeah, exactly. Good for me. Like, I can't let somebody superimpose their limitations
Wow.
on my belief system
Wow.
because your limitations have nothing to do with my leverage.
Wow. And you are very passionate about the words that come out of your mouth.
Every single solitary word.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've heard you say before, like the quality of your content is the quality of your life. And that's really what you mean. It's like the quality of the words that are in your mind.
Right. And the words that come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
The words that are in your mind are your thoughts. The words that come out of your mouth are your speech or your talking. It matches the 4 levels of value.
Yeah.
Right? The lowest level is implementation. The second level is unification. If you think of communication is the 3rd highest level, imagination is the highest level. So if you think about it like that, what we're doing is we're taking ideas from our head, that's the imagination, turning them into words that come out of our mouth, and those words are unifying our mind with our body.
Wow.
So our body's willing to take action on the ideas that our mind came up with. And so
Wow.
it's amazing how even though imagination is the highest level, communication is the most essential level, or content is the most essential level. What does that mean? Well, you can speak without thinking.
Yeah.
Oh man, I should have thought before I said that, right?
Right.
We've all said that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you can't think without using words.
Right.
So words are essential communication is essential to imagination,
Yeah.
right? But communication, the words that I say, cause me to frame a belief around an action, whether future or present,
Yeah.
that gives me the belief that moving in this direction is a good idea, right? So now my words unify, the communication unifies the implementation with the imagination, brings it together, and then a result can be produced.
Yeah, so you do that for yourself and for other people
Exactly.
when you sell. You know what's wild, and I'm sure you know this, like the limbic part of the brain, that is responsible for your emotions, but there's no capacity for language there at all.
So
But
good.
the neocortex part of the brain is all logic, and you take action from emotion, but there's no words that go with it. So with sales, and what you just said is like we take the logic part of the brain where you think with your words, connect with the emotion part of your body, which
the words
make you act.
manufacture a feeling.
Exactly.
Right.
Which makes you do something with your hands and makes you like focus specifically. So you doing that with yourself is huge, but to do it for other people. And what's cool about Payoff, I kind of say value and payoff the same way. You're not saying it the same way.
Yeah, value and payoff are not the same.
Yeah, like the
Because
value.
value is based on values.
Right, which is what, and you have to know what they value
Right.
in order to, which that also kind of goes with payoff, no?
It does,
Okay.
but you build your payoff based on their values. The
Right.
payoff that you communicate is based on what they value.
Right, so it's specific. So they
Yes.
value to be like highly sought after. The payoff is you were the most talked about.
Right.
Exactly. You're the most talked about author
Exactly.
in this coaching space or something like that.
So the question then becomes, like, how do I know what they value?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. How do I know what their values are?
Yeah.
Right. And here's what I discovered: values are determined by value. Like our value is determined by values. So
Right.
what's value? If I present something to you, I think it's value. It's only value if it's valuable to you.
Right.
How can I know? I can know what people value.
That's right.
Right? Because values come from 3 places.
Yeah.
Past perceived voids create present pursued values. What does that mean? I grew up, something was missing. I could see other people had it, but I didn't have it. And so because it was a void in my past, it was a past perceived void,
That's right.
it creates a present pursued value. So we only had raggedy cars when I was growing up, right? So I live in a very nice house, but it's not a mansion. I could live in a mansion, but I don't. But we have very nice cars. We didn't live in nice houses either, but the house I live in is like 1,000 times better than anything I lived in growing up, right? But it's not a mansion. I've lived in nicer houses than the one I live in now, or a nicer house than the one I live. The house I live in now is probably the second nicest house I've ever lived in. Okay, but the cars I drive now are the nicest cars I've ever had, right? But why? When I was a kid, we had old raggedy cars. We had to have a toolbox everywhere we went because when it broke down, we were gonna have to fix it.
Wow.
Right? Like my tools stay in my garage, right?
Yeah.
Like my car, the light comes on, I take it to the shop, and
Right.
they give me a loaner, and
Right.
So because that was a past perceived void,
Right.
but also present perceived virtues create present perceived values. So right now, things that I perceive as virtuous or good are things that I value. So if it's something that I perceive as good, then yeah, I'll pursue that as a value.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is future perceived visions create
Right.
present perceived values. So those are the three things so if I'm talking to you about something that was missing in the past that you can have in the present,
Yeah.
something that you believe is good in the present that you can have right now, and
Yeah.
something that you're working towards in the future but you can have it sooner, if I can pack what my thing has to being able to give you all three of those things, it becomes virtually impossible for you not to say yes to my offer.
And then when you're specifically talking about how that looks in their life, that's the specific payoff.
Exactly.
What I notice a lot of salespeople do is they talk about the payoff is what they, or the value of how they value it in
Their
their
perceived
life.
value, yeah,
And
it doesn't matter.
they don't spend time
To
really
discover.
uncovering it. And a great way to uncover it is honestly to observe. Would you agree with that? Like even just looking at your car, like you can observe that of you.
Right.
Without ever having to have you say that to me.
So you can look at somebody who drives a really exclusive car,
Yeah.
and you can tell they like exclusive things.
Yeah.
So why would you want to sell them? Why would you
Right.
want to sell them? Not only why would you want to sell them the Walmart version of a thing, why would
Yeah.
you want to sell them, no pun intended, the Macy's version, right?
Yeah.
Not Macy you, but like the
the
Macy's department store.
yeah.
When they're clearly a Neiman Marcus
Yeah.
buyer.
Yeah.
When they're clearly a custom clothing buyer.
That's
why would you
right.
sell them something off the rack
That's
when
right.
clearly custom is their jam?
Can I tell you one of the things we like to say in our world?
Do.
If you want them to say, I trust them, make it custom. Like make your message.
Ooh, that was so good.
You like that?
Let's
That little
go.
epigram right there? But it's like when you're so specific and create a custom message for Coach Myron, you're like, I trust you because you see me. You see what I value. You see where I want to go in my life. And so therefore, I want to work with you.
100%.
And the biggest part of sales is the info gather portion of it. And can I
It
tell you
is.
what so many people ask me? What is like the list of questions to ask to info gather? And they want this like interview style script.
Right.
And it's a
There's no more
breadcrumb.
script than there's a mold for manufacturing people. Everybody's different.
100%. And each answer is like a breadcrumb to know where to go next.
So good.
And that's why what we like to say is like the sales business is the people business. It is. That is ultimately, if you can know people,
Yeah.
you can sell anything.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
I do. It's one of the things that I like to share with my clients is
Yeah.
questions are the answer.
That's right.
The better you get at asking questions and then listening to the answer. People say, I'm not good with names. No, you're fine with names, and you don't have a problem remembering names. When you ask somebody their name and you tell them yours, you're just not paying attention.
That's right.
Right? So ask questions and then pay attention to the answers.
That's right.
So that you can set an intention on fulfilling the desires of those answers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you will ask enough questions and listen to the answers and pay attention to the people you're talking
That's
to,
right.
they will tell you everything you need to know
Yeah.
in order for them to say yes to your offer.
Yeah. And listen, I know you said you're not a sales girl, but you are, and I'll tell you why.
Sales guy, don't get it twisted. I'm on the blue team. Okay, go ahead.
But like part of info gathering, we always say, like, don't ask the right question, ask the relevant question. And you cannot go wrong with a clarifying question as a relevant question.
You can't go wrong.
You cannot go wrong. It is impossible to go wrong. And I
So
hear
good,
you.
Macy.
I hear you ask clarifying questions
All the time.
The time.
Because
You
I don't
ask-
want to answer the question that I think they're asking.
That's
I
right.
want to answer the question they know they're asking.
Exactly.
I have no desire to answer the question I think you're asking. I don't understand what you're asking me.
Even if you do understand, I think you still.
Yeah, I don't. I pretty much assume I don't. I
Yeah.
assume when I'm talking to somebody else, they don't understand what I mean, and I
Yeah.
assume when somebody's talking to me that I don't understand what they mean.
Wow.
And so I'm seeking clarification probably 80% of the time in a conversation,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's me talking or them talking.
Wow. Yeah. Even just, I've heard someone ask something about food, and you're like, why? Like, why do you ask? What are you looking for? What is like the desire that that's uncovering, or
Right.
that's the root, the core of what you're doing. Is
Exactly.
what is like the desire that you
Right.
want of this like food question that you're asking,
Exactly.
and that is what sales girls and sales guys do.
Boom.
Yep.
I saw what you did
Coach,
there.
I wanna-
Okay, I hope I know the answer to this.
It's a fun one.
Okay, cool.
What is the number one book that you have gifted other people the most?
Wow. I've gifted so many books. The number one book I've gifted the most?
Yeah.
I'm only going to guess this because I remember when I read the book that I went out to every bookstore. This was before Amazon was an Amazon. It was before Amazon was a thing. I went to every bookstore in my town, found every copy that was available in my town and the surrounding towns so I could give them away as Christmas gifts. And it was The 1 Minute Millionaire by Robert Allen and Mark Victor Hansen.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if that's my number one most gifted book
Yeah.
ever, because my number one most gifted book would be either Trash Man to Cash Man or
Right.
Boss Moves, because I give those away all the time
Right.
as I'm out and about.
Right.
But somebody else's book, probably The 1 Minute Millionaire by Robert Allen and Mark
Can I
Victor
ask you
Hansen.
why?
Yeah, because it was so brilliantly crafted. It was
Really?
it was magnificent. It's one of the best 10 books I've ever read in my life.
I don't think I've ever heard you talk about that book before. I'm about to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a book that's both a story on one side and a story on one side, and then principles on the opposite page that go with the story.
Wow.
And it's a story about a mom whose husband dies in a car crash, and she has 90 days to come up with enough money to save her children from being taken from her by her wealthy in-laws. And she goes on this journey, and it's a journey that is like paved with so much difficulty. And on the course, so it's speaking to the feeling side of the brain and the logical side of the brain at
right.
the same time. It was so well done that when I got done with that book, I said, everybody has to read this book.
Wow.
And I went out and bought every copy I could get my hands on.
Wow.
And gave it away.
Amazing.
But another book that I've given away hundreds of copies to, which is, like, that was the first one that came to my mind. But another book is a little 36-page book by Price Pritchett called U Squared. And
That book.
that book is like, that's 36 pages of pure juicy goodness.
Oh, yeah.
And I've given away hundreds of those. So that's probably the most gifted book that I've ever given. Because I've given away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies to clients of mine.
What's crazy about that book is it's so short and it takes me so long to read it because it's
'Cause
like
it's so dense.
every sentence I'm like,
I know,
wait,
right?
what? Yes.
Yeah.
Like life
It's
changing,
like,
honestly.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Thank you
Good
for
stuff,
sharing. We are just obviously really big fans of you. You've been,
It's a two-way street, sister.
thank you, Coach. You've been such a huge mentor and such an impact on our business, and we just love you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.